Well, hello and welcome to this exercise on factorization expressions and equation, GCSE 921 grade system. And I think this is probably, if you're looking for grade 8, you should be able to do this one, hopefully. Right, it then says 2x squared minus 6x plus 5 can be written as a into x minus b all squared plus c. Right, and it says for the first part, it says work out the value of a, b, and c. But this question, by the way, carries 4 marks, and there are 2 sections. Okay, it says work out the value of a, b, and c. Now, what I've done is to put brackets around 2x squared and 6x there. That will be our starting point or positions. Right, so if we now factorize 2x squared and minus 6x, we end up with 2 into x squared minus 3x. You get 2 outside the bracket or parentheses. Right, now, so now if we now half the coefficient of x, the coefficient of x is 3, and half of that is minus 1.5. There should be a minus sign there. Minus 1.5. So we end up with this here now. We end up with 2 into x minus 1.5x all squared. Now I put a minus something there because when you expand this bracket, as you see later on, when you expand this bracket here, we're going to have an extra value that was not in the original equation. So we need to subtract that. So what we then have is this one here. That 2 into x squared minus 3x plus 1.5 all squared plus 5. Now, this 1.5 all squared, or 2 times 1.5 all squared, is an extra value that we've put in there. So we need to subtract that extra value. So we need to subtract that. So we need to subtract, because if you do 2 into 1.5 all squared, you get 4.50. So we need to subtract this 4.50 to get us back to the same value as the original equation. Okay. So now we're evens now. That's okay. So now we then have that 2 into x squared minus 3x plus 1.5 all squared plus 0.5, because 5 minus 4.5 will give us plus 0.5 there. Okay. So now we can go back and express this there as x minus 1.5x all squared. Okay. So now we have that a is equal to 2 as required. From there, a is equal to 2, and b is 1.5, and c is 0.5. And that's the answer to the first part of this question. Now don't forget that the whole question carries 4 marks. That's the second part. Okay, now for part B, it says using your answer to part A or otherwise, solve 2x squared minus 6x plus 5 is equal to 8.5. Okay, now there are quite a few ways of doing this, and one of the ways of doing this is to use your quadratic formula, but that takes ages to do. So what I'm going to use here is I think is the simplest way of doing this question here, because we're okay. All right, so what I then do is go back from here, from there to there. Okay, so we then have that 2 into x squared minus 3x plus 1.5 squared plus 0.5 is equal to 8.5. If I now express this as 2 into x minus 1.5 all squared is equal to 8.5 there, because I got 0.5 or 0.5 there. Now, if you then subtract 0.5 from both sides, you end up with 2 into x minus 1.5 squared is equal to, excuse this plus sign, assume me there. 2 into x minus 1.5 all squared is equal to 8.0. If we then divide both sides by 2, we end up with x minus 1.5 squared is equal to 4. If we then take the square root of both sides, the square root of x minus 1.5 squared is x minus 1.5. And the square root of 4 is plus or minus 2. If we then say that x minus 1.5 is 2, there, and then we then add 1.5 to both sides, we end up with x is equal to 2 plus 1.5, which then gives us a value of x is equal to 3.5. So that's one of the solutions required. Okay. Now, if we then use x minus 1.5 is equal to minus 2, if we add 1.5 to both sides, we end up with x is equal to minus 2 plus 1.5, and that will give us an x value of minus 0.5. Okay, and I hope all that made some sense, and please subscribe. Thank you for watching, and bye bye now. Bye bye.